Okay, hello everyone. So we're back. We're here with Dan Govier, the founder of Fleetyard Studios and the main developer of upcoming game Starship Simulator. Hello Dan, and welcome. Thank you for being here with us.
No worries, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. For starters, tell us a little bit about yourself, about the Starship Simulator project. Just for the viewers, that never heard of this game, or yourself, what this is all about, what stage are we at, and and so on. If you can, please. Thank you.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Dan Govier, as you said. I've been a long-time hobbyist builder of starships, and about 4 years ago, I decided to turn that hobby into an actual commercial game, and that's really what Starship Simulator is all about. It's about that love that I had for building starships and really deep diving into the hardware and the simulation. And if we were building a starship, how would we really build one? Where would we put the pipes and the cables, and where would the engines go? And it really started off as kind of a thought experiment, which eventually turned into a game. And then I've always been a huge fan of space and astrophysics and exploring the galaxy. So, having that love of simulating a starship and that love of astrophysics and exploration, it just marrying those two things together and turning it into a game just kind of naturally grew over time. So that's what the game's about. It's about living and working aboard a massive starship whilst exploring as authentic as possible, a recreation of the Milky Way galaxy. So we'll be able to get out there, seek out strange new worlds and that sort of thing.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, that's this type of games were sort of a little bit quiet for quite a long time, coming back from the 90s, and they were quite popular at the time, back in the day, but then it all went a little bit quiet, and then all of a sudden there were a few bigger ones coming up, and then we see these new games being developed, which is absolutely amazing to see, because obviously personally as a lover of space and astrophysics and astronomy and all that, it's really great to see these projects coming up. And I mean, with today's means of for the indie studios and indie developers even getting out there and being able to start these projects, it's really great to see. So your Kickstarter campaign was a huge success, bringing in over £400,000, which is absolutely amazing result. I'm not sure, don't remember exactly what was the original goal, but I think it was exceeded like way beyond 60 grand. Yeah. So it was amazing to see. I was watching that, with the bar growing, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. So looking back at this campaign, what was the real sort of pinch me moment when you knew the campaign had like really taken off?
Yeah, well, we started the campaign, and we didn't even know whether we'd hit the target. We had a few followers, and I think it was up to a couple of hundred by the time we went live. I can't remember the exact number now, but it didn't seem like enough to be able to hit our goal. And I think it was when we hit the goal within 2 days, I think that was like, oh, wow. We never expected that. So yeah we actually, 48 hours, we've already hit the goal. And then it's just like a whole month of just, building it up from there. So that was it for me. It was the fact we hit the goal so quickly.
Amazing. So did you have all of the the goals set up from the start, or did you have to add new tiers as the funds grew?
Yeah. No, we had really labored over making the Kickstarter page. So it probably took us about a month, if not longer, to put it together and think about the tiers and the stretch goals and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was all predefined by the time we went live.
Okay.
But yeah, there was a lot of thought that went into that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So speaking of Kickstarter, still one of our viewers asked the question: when will the people that back the project, but not to the point of getting early access to the game as backer, when can they get the access?
Now it's already on Steam as a demo, and the demo on Steam is currently equal to the internal development build as of 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm. I saw the video on YouTube. I didn't watch it all. It was about 2 a.m. a couple of days ago when it went live. And I was like 2 a.m. and I went about when you started describing the navigation panel, and I was like, that's too late to comprehend all of that. I'm just gonna pause now. But it was really good to see that you brought up this free demo, because it's free on Steam, right? Anybody can download it and anybody can play Starship Simulator right now. And it was really good to see that it's been brought up to the same level that the backers can access, and that for the internal builders as well. So that's really cool. So yeah, looking at even at this early stage of the game has really obvious Star Trek vibes. The ships, the humming of the engines inside, the soundscapes. It's all like really clearly inspired by Star Trek, which is really good, by the way. And I'm personally a big Star Trek fan, absolutely love it. But what other films, books, or maybe games have most influenced your design decisions apart from Star Trek, obviously?
I think Babylon 5 is a big one, and Stargate. To be honest, I love all sci-fi. I've always been a huge sci-fi nerd. My favorite sci-fi of all time is definitely Babylon 5. I don't think anything out there has the same kind of consistent story arc or character development that Babylon 5 has. And the alien races in the game are very much going to be Babylon 5 in style, like the first ones and the ancients and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's going to be a mix of everything. So we've taken a bit from Star Trek, a bit from Babylon 5, a bit from Stargate. Like the uniforms on the ship are much more inspired by Stargate over anything else. So yeah, it's an eclectic mix of everything, really.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear, because I think this means that the fans of every of these franchises will find something for themselves. Like because I personally love to discover little things in the game. Oh, this is definitely a tribute to something. Oh, that's a tribute to something. Oh, this look very similar to this. And it's so cool to see like influence from so many different franchises into one game, because I think it's like I said, people will be able to see to pick up these different little things that will maybe get remind me of this. Maybe I'll watch this again. Maybe I'll read that book again or something. What about Elite Dangerous? Because our community is mainly focused about Elite Dangerous. You must know this game. I'm sure you know this game. Any inspiration from Elite Dangerous?
Oh, very much so, and not specifically Elite, but the original Elite, because the first game I ever got into was Elite on the Commodore 64. So that was my, as a gamer, that was my introduction to gaming, was playing Elite. And then when I moved on to having an Amiga, I loved Elite First Encounters. And yeah, I've been a huge Elite fan all of my life. So yeah, Elite and Elite Dangerous is very much an inspiration for the game.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sure many people will be glad to hear that, because like I said, we are focused around Elite Dangerous. We are all about the same age here, like 40s, 50s, 30s. So we all play these old games as well. We all love them as well. It's good to hear that, some inspiration from them as well. So that's a nice segue, because obviously Elite Dangerous has the great galaxy that are built by the Stellar Forge, and it's all science based and all that. So speaking about your galaxy, we know it's procedurally generated as well. And can you share a little bit more details, like what data did you use to feed the algorithm? How many systems are going to end up with? How much systems there are now, and how much work is still to be done on that front?
Sure. Well, I think it's fair to say the galaxy will never be finished. It's one of those things we will continue to flesh out over time. We've used the Gaia catalog for the bulk of the data. So we've got 18 million real-world stars, and they extend out to a radius of 2,000 light years. So basically, within 2,000 light years of Sol, most of the stars are real. The gaps in the data is kind of backfilled with procedural stars, but there are 18 million real-world stars, which I think is more than anything else currently available, which we're quite happy about.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll continue to flesh that out. But one of the cool things that even at the ship's top speed, it'll take you 7 hours to reach the edge of the real stars region. Which is great. And once we increase the view distance on that, you'll be able to make out real-world nebulas and real-world constellations, which I'm quite excited for.
So, did you say if going at full speed from one edge of the current galaxy available in the game to the other end is 7 hours?
Well, edge to edge across the entire galaxy is about 2.5 weeks. Wow. So it's about 4 days to Sag. Yeah.
Wow. So what is the top speed of the current ship?
300 light years per hour.
Wow, 300 light years per hour. So we're going 300 light years per hour, and it's going to take us 2.5 weeks to get from one edge of the galaxy to the other.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So,
that really tells about the size of the current galaxy. Even it's
It's huge. It's 100,000 light years across. So it's the same size as the galaxy in Elite Dangerous, obviously, because they're based on the same real world Milky Way. We're also going to have things like the Magellanic Clouds and some of the dwarf galaxies around the Milky Way as well. So, we're going to expand outward, but no further than that. So that's kind of the limit of where we intend to go with it.
Sure.
And we want to put some of our end game content in the Magellanic Clouds.
Yeah. So it's already huge. So you're gonna just fill it more with more content now that it's we've got the size now, but gonna have even more content in there now. That we have now. I mean, amazing. Yeah, that's really good to hear. So, speaking of the galaxy, and discoveries that players can make, even in this current early stage, what was the strangest planet or stellar phenomenon that you discovered while testing? And maybe what about the community? Did they discover anything that surprised you as a developer?
There's not been anything too crazy. I mean, we had a problem where planets were generating inside of stars, which I think it's also a problem Elite had as well.
Yeah.
It's just like a side effect of the data. But once we implemented the Roche limits on stars and dust sublimation zones on the protoplanetary disks, that kind of fixed all of that. So we don't have that happening anymore. But I guess it's been quite robust from day one. So we haven't really had any weirdness in the galaxy.
Okay, I mean that's good to hear on one side as well, because it means it's it's as realistic a representation as it can be possibly without some sort of bizarre stuff. Because I remember in Elite Dangerous, the players were discovering some really weird stuff, like these weird planetary constructions which didn't really have right to exist. I know I'm on the exploration trip right now, and there is one bug in Stellar Forge that meant that the gas giants produced these really weird fluorescent green atmospheres which have no right to exist. But I think Frontier left them in on players' request as a sort of bizarre anomaly in space. So I think they left that in, but scientifically it doesn't really make sense. So it's good to hear that the galaxy in Starship Simulator is actually free of this sort of bizarre, non-realistic stuff. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say the way we've built the galaxy, or at least in terms of star systems when they're generated, it uses temperature zones to define what types of planets can form. So you won't get things like an icy world close to a star or anything like that, because that's just not possible within the algorithm. So we've from day one really we've made it as robust as possible so that the weird stuff doesn't happen like that. But there's still plenty of randomness there, so you will get some outliers every now and then.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good, because it makes exploration a little bit more interesting when you find, because if you found loads of weird things, they wouldn't be weird anymore. It'd be just normal, right? So, but if you find one slightly bizarre thing every now and then, it makes for a unique discovery, that nobody found before.
One of those things is double rings on a gas giant. So in the last update, we've added a very, very small chance for a gas giant to have more than one ring. So you can have a secondary ring at an acute angle to sort of simulate a recent collision event. So yeah, there are tiny things like that crop up every now and then.
Sure. So there is actually logic behind it, right? It's not just a random second ring. It's because as an effect of a collision event that happened some time ago, like millions of years ago, whatever. And it created a secondary ring, so it's not. So I'm glad to hear there's logic behind it. It's not just random. Oh, let's put a secondary ring on there. It's there is substance basically to it. I love stuff like that because, like I said, big astronomy nerd. So it's good to hear that things like that are in the game as well. Any Easter eggs in the galaxy? Sort of, maybe like I said, a little less realistic, but maybe little hints at something.
Not yet. There are a few things I'd like to sprinkle around. I mean, again, this game is kind of born out of a love of sci-fi. Like the cat on the ship is called Jonesy. We've got a ginger Tom called Jonesy wandering around, and obviously that's like a homage to aliens.
Yeah.
Or Alien, the first film. Um, so little things like that, I'd like to have like a xenomorph egg
Hmm.
somewhere, just as a, again, a homage. But yeah, I kind of jokingly said I wanted to have a planet which was the exact map of Middle Earth, just kind of out there
Oh,
somewhere.
wow, that would be
But
cool. That would be cool. You know why it would be
yeah,
cool as well? Because one of the prizes I've got for the raffle today is
Mm.
this. I don't know if you can see it, but if you've got Twitch on the side, it's this beautiful Atlas of Tolkien by David Day. So
Nice.
it's just cool to hear that we might get a Middle Earth world in there one day. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a bit of a mayhem on the side. Right, so let's talk ships now, because obviously Galaxy is one thing, but you need to explore the galaxy in something, right? So the ship we have in the game now is called the Magellan class Explorer, and it's truly magnificent. Obviously it went through one iteration of update recently. It got the big ring, and we're gonna be looking at it because I'm gonna be playing Starship Simulator right after this interview, just to showcase the game, to the viewers. So it's really magnificent, and I love how you actually implemented on the loading screen. And actually talk about this in this video, and I did notice that when I was last time I was showcasing this game on my live stream, I did notice that the loading screen that shows the building of all of the decks as the game loads up. That's really cool. I love that. So I
Yeah.
personally, we can really appreciate the work that went into it. It's very clear you've put loads of work into that. So how much time did you actually spend on the initial version of the ship, and how far from completion is it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when we first started making the game, we were experimenting with the design of the ship, the tools and system we'd be using to build it. So I think it's fair to say we had a couple of false starts. So the ship originally was almost like tube shaped,
Mm-hmm.
and then it became almost like a perfect saucer, and then we kind of went with like a more toilet seat shaped. We kind of jokingly called it the toilet seat because it was kind of that shape. But I couldn't work out how to effectively attach any of the FTL hardware to that shape. So that's why we stretched it out into more of like a fish shape and then put a ring around it. So the ship has evolved over time based on the requirements for the hardware. So the hardware is driving the design of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So I think right now we are done with the overall silhouette. Everything has a place to go. So we've got the ring for the FTL hardware. We've got the engine pods at the back for the sublight engines. Everything makes sense. Everywhere has somewhere to go. So the process now is just fleshing that out. It's a big ship, and
It's
there's a
massive.
lot of stuff to do
Yeah.
still. So I think we're still easily a year away from finishing that
Mm-hmm.
particular ship. But we're just going to take it room by room. So every time we do an update, we will pick a room on the ship and flesh that out and get it looking good internally, and just carry on. Every new patch will finish more of the ship essentially.
Amazing. That's really, and again, it's good to hear that the ship is driven by the hardware. So the ship design is driven by the hardware because it makes sense logically. Like you were talking about it in the video as well. You attach the FTL drive somewhere, so we came up with the ring, and there's the drives attached at the back of the ship now, and all sort of it's all connected internally by like the actual cables and pipes, right? Am I right in saying that?
Yep. Yep.
It's all logically connected inside the ship by the
Absolutely.
infrastructure. Yeah, that's really cool. So I had one more question in my head just now, but oh yeah, about the cat. I did find a cat recently. Just stumbled into it. It was really cool, and I was like, oh my god, the alien. Oh my god. And then, but I also found prison cells just yesterday at night when I was looking at just refreshing my memory about the game. I found prison cells on the ship.
Yes.
Do you have any plans for like that kind of gameplay?
Yeah, well, they're actually already usable. I think it was it F9 or F8, something like that. I forget all the actual shortcut is now, but basically you have host controls in multiplayer, so you can send a player to the brig if they're causing issues in a multiplayer game, and it actually saves that locally for you as a server host. So if that player tries to join the game again at any point, they spawn immediately in the brig.
Wow.
So if you brig someone in multiplayer, they cannot join your game in the future without staying in the brig. and that was by request from the players because they wanted some way of controlling people that were just trolling the game and
That's
causing
amazing.
problems.
That's such a cool idea over like just getting someone kicked from the server, banning someone. I love this. Like absolutely, like you surprised me so much with this answer now, and I absolutely love that you can actually do something like this in the game. It's all within the context of the game and role play, and it's like banning somebody from a game inside the game world rather than just set them to jail. It's amazing. I absolutely love it.
It's like reverse trolling because you can actually then go down to the brig and just laugh at them.
Yeah. Go.
So reverse trolling.
Yeah, I'm gonna have emotes in the game going, so like ha.
Yeah.
Cool. That's really good. So about little surprises and Easter eggs. There used to be a little surprise waiting for players in one of the rooms in one of the early versions. It scared the crap out of me at the time. I won't lie. Is it still there? I'm not gonna spoil, and in case it's still there, hiding in the shadows, or is it gone now?
No. So that was Steve, our resident alien, and Claire made me take him out because it was giving people heart attacks.
It scared the crap out of me, I tell you that. Just for the viewers who won't see that ever again, there was an actual greyman, like the alien, a greyman in one of the rooms, hiding in the darkness, and you walk into this room, and he was just there right at you, and it was so surprising because the ship was empty at the time. There was no NPC crew. There was just the player, and just to see that alien pop right in your face in a dark room, it was so scary. Oh my god! I'm sort of. It's a shame he's gone, but at the same time, like I said, I can understand why.
So we will have an entire race of greys in the game. Again, so we want to have a lot of kind of real world lore. There's a lot of alien races out there which are in the popular press, so we want to include those in the game to kind of add that kind of element of realism to it. So the greys will exist in the game, and they will be flying around in flying saucers, and they will have a home world.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Really cool.
Yeah, so Steve will be back, but with his people.
Nice. That's good to hear. And you have alien races right now in the game, right? In this latest tech build 3. You can interact with them, as I understand. You can just see them, their buildings or cities or whatever from the orbit. But you can actually find alien races in the game right now. Is that correct?
Yeah. There are actually tens of thousands of alien races now in the galaxy. So we've already implemented the first steps for generating life across the galaxy. So as you're exploring, you'll start to see tech signatures when you do long-range scans. And if you then follow that through and go to that system and scan that planet, you'll see details about the alien civilization that live there. And you'll find sometimes it will say, like, so-and-so names occupied world. There's a difference between an occupied world and their home world. So an alien race will obviously have their central home world and then a number of occupied worlds around that. So you can kind of, by finding a few different occupied worlds, you can kind of triangulate where their home world might be and go and find it.
That's really interesting. That something like this makes me want to go and explore the galaxy. It drives curiosity and just because one of the criticism of Elite is that all of the planets look the same. There's not much to find on them. Some people like that kind of stuff. Some people don't. Obviously it's a matter of opinion whether you like this kind of stuff or not. But if there is that element of there actually is something to be found out there, and obviously if people are into sci-fi, they're obviously into alien races, and it's all that kind of the curiosity, what's out there or who's out there, and I think to have something like that in such an early version is going to be great to drive the engagement with the game, I think, because for me personally, I now, as soon as I learned about it, watching your video, the latest video, I didn't know about it before. I only found out about it from the video. It immediately instigated that sort of, I want to play this game, I want to find these races, I want to see what's out there or who's out there, I want to find all of this stuff. So I think it's pretty cool to have that in this early version of the game.
Yeah, and it will only get more fleshed out from here. So the next thing we'll implement with the alien races will be the ability to hail them on the comms console. So we haven't got a comms console yet, but that'll be the next thing we do. So that the first level of interaction with them will be the ability to initiate a conversation and probably have a multiple choice conversation with them. But then we'll just iterate on that in layers. So eventually they'll have their own ships in space, and then they'll have a physical presence so they can board your ship. So we're just going to go layer by layer, iteration by iteration, making them more and more part of the galaxy.
Wow, that sounds really exciting and really cool. I personally can't wait for that kind of stuff. Really good.
Yeah, me too.
So coming back to the ship, just because we just coming a little because we drift a little bit from the topic, but coming back to the ship, there is an early organic 3D printer in the VIP lounge, and you actually showcased that in your video as well. I did find it in my latest playthrough of this. It actually does work now. It prints food, but you said in the video that you wanted to print ingredients which will be then used in the kitchen to prepare the food. So how deep do you want the crafting gameplay to go in the game?
Well, obviously we've got multiple crew roles that will be using different resources. So with the kitchen gameplay, for example, the organic 3D printers basically print out raw ingredients. So unlike something like Star Trek, where they just produce a plate of hot food here as a finished meal, they'll print out, say, a potato, and it's then up to the chef to do something with that raw ingredient to make something. Whereas in something like the engineering gameplay, there will be non-organic 3D printers that can just print out parts. So if you have, like, say there's a cable to a corridor that controls the lighting, and that cable's been damaged and needs replacing. So the engineer will have to go to a 3D printer, print out a replacement cable, and then they can go and then fix that cable and fix the lights on that corridor. And that will extend all the way up to like the reactor itself. So you'll be printing out reactor components to go and fix the reactor if the reactor doesn't work anymore. The 3D printers will have a fuel source. So like the organic one will have like organic pellets that come from the hydroponics. So you harvest the plants in the hydroponics, that creates the pellets to go into 3D printers, and then they can print out facsimiles of fruit and veg. And then with the non-organic 3D printers, they'll use base minerals. So you'll have a little mining vessel aboard the ship where you can go out and mine resources. And again, you're basically gathering fuel for the 3D printers. So that's kind of how the crafting gameplay will work within the game.
Nice. I think you just answered one of the viewers' questions in the chat. They just asked, are you planning to do some planning on the to get food, like fishing and hunting animals and things like that? Is that something like this is planned as well?
To be honest, we haven't really thought about hunting or fishing or anything like that. The upgrade path we had planned for the hydroponics. So let's say that the default plants that you start with have a certain nutrient density. You might find a plant on an alien planet which has a much higher nutrient density and grows quicker, and that's a straight upgrade over the plants you already have. So the idea is that you identify a better food source, you then start growing that instead. But if you don't do your due diligence on that plant, it might be poisonous. So that's where like the medical gameplay will come into it, and the science gameplay. So you need to make sure that you do all the science on that plant to make sure it's actually safe for the crew. Because if you just use it without having done any of those tests, then you end up poisoning people, which means they end up in sickbay. And there's this organic process within the game. And that's why we why we made the decision to go down the simulation route with everything, rather than having set gameplay, so that you can have these organic situations occurring.
That all sounds really cool, and it sounds like it's gonna be a little bit for everybody to play. Because, for example, personally, I'm not a big fan of crafting / survival type of gameplay, but I know lots of people are. So maybe for me it'll be more of a role, I don't know, like maybe a navigator or a scientist. But for people who love crafting, maybe there'll be suited gameplay for them, so they'll be able to mine resources. And then people who like cooking gameplay, they'll be able to be chefs. So it sounds like there's going to be something for everybody, which makes me happy, because we have like this big community, like I said, for Redemption. There's about 400 people in our community. And can we fit all of them on the spaceship for everybody to have a role? Like, I know it's a bit of a off-track question, but is there a limit of the multiplayer gameplay on the ship?
It depends on the ship. So on the Magellan class, it's got a crew of 200. Now, we haven't tested it with more than about 16 people. 16 was fine, but we're struggling to get more than that on there at the moment, and we're still trying to figure out why. For some reason, it kicks people out if it's more than 16. But yeah, so the idea is exactly that. So you can have someone can be the chef, someone could be an engineer, someone could be the pilot, and if any role that doesn't have a human player involved will be done by NPCs. So one of our guiding principles from day one is that if you have someone who only wants to be the chef and then not care about the ship at all, then they can be the chef. There will be an NPC captain making decisions. There will be an NPC bridge crew flying the ship, and you could have battles raging outside of the ship while you're just there flipping burgers. We want that level of player agency.
Oh, that sounds really cool. That I think it's actually a nice segue to the next question. Like, what ship are you working on currently outside of the Magellan, and how different will it be to the Magellan class?
Yeah, so we've just started building the Caravella class. So essentially, it's a caravel. It's a small, quick scout ship that's built by a private corporation. So Lunara Industries are our first in-game corporation for building ships, and they, in the game's lore, they were one of the contractors working on the Magellan class. And through corporate espionage, they've got the plans for the FTL drive. So they've decided to build their own ship, sort of in secret at the same time. So whilst you're out there on the Magellan doing your big mission of exploration, they've privately and secretly sent their own ship out there to look for alien artifacts and to look for new minerals to help them build better ships and kind of boost the profits of their corporation. So this is like just a small, and it is quite small. It's about a 14-person crew. It's just over 100 meters long versus the Magellan, which is like 300 and something. But yeah, its mission profile is largely the same in that it's a deep space exploration ship, but not in the expansive sense of the Magellan. It's very much laser focused on looking for alien tech that it can exploit. But it's got the same sort of thing. Like it's got a couple of science labs. It's got hydroponics. It can support its crew long term in space.
That sounds really cool. And it's gonna be suitable for maybe smaller groups of players as well. And maybe obviously the Magellan is massive and it can have NPC crew. But I can imagine maybe some smaller groups of players getting into a smaller ship and just getting out there, a bit quicker and a bit faster maybe, and having less to do.
Well, that was the idea. Yeah, that was the plan. So we wanted something where like an intimate player group could fully man a starship without having to rely on NPCs. So we want to make other ships as well, which are even smaller. So maybe like a 5-person crew, so that you can have that like just intimate, like focused player group controlling everything on the ship.
Amazing. Any ETA for this new ship? You can't say, obviously, you can't say, but it's a.
Yeah, I'm only building it on stream at the moment. So we do streams twice a week, and the idea was on the Sunday stream we'll be exclusively building this new ship. So I'm only working on it for about 4 hours per week. So we don't know how long it will take to complete, but it's an interesting project.
Sure, no problem. Just fine, because I was going to drop your channel into the chat just for the people to follow as well and to subscribe. Let me just quickly find it. Is it just called Starship Simulator? Yeah, it is. I've got it now. Okay.
Yeah.
So guys, if you wanna follow and look at Dan's live streams on YouTube, they're on this channel that I put in the chat right now. So yeah, please have a look, subscribe, and follow. Great stuff on there. And you can learn something about game programming as well, right? I guess watching a professional on live stream can be a little bit educational as well, I guess.
I wouldn't go as far as professional. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the next ship. And how many ships do you plan to release in the base version of the game initially?
So probably around 12, because we have some ships that backers have paid for as part of our Kickstarter. So those will be the ships that ship with the game. So we'll have the big crew, so the Magellan, and then 11 or so smaller ships.
Okay, excellent. And actually, speaking about this, do you have any plans for the financing for the development of the game after it releases? Like, is it going to be paid for and then with sort of like DLCs, or do you have any, or can you even say?
Yeah, so we have 3 DLCs that are pretty much locked in now. So we have a 3 DLC story arc we've got planned.
Mhm.
In a nutshell, the first one is about exploring the galaxy. And at the end of that, you'll kind of meet the big bad for the game. The second one's going to be about a war with that big bad. So the second expansion is very much a combat focused one. And then the third expansion is about rebuilding after that war. So it's going to be very much trading focused.
Mm.
And we want the player to be running their own sort of space shipping company as part of that DLC. So those are pretty much set now. In addition to that, we'll be selling ships as well alongside. So we're kind of adopting the DCS world model for the game.
Sure. It sounds sensible. This, I think, it's going to allow you to, to once the people keep buying the ships and keep getting these DLCs and getting into the story. I'm glad to hear there's going to be a storyline as well. Apart from the sandbox element, we can just go out there and explore on your own. Really cool to hear about the storylines as well. I love storytelling in games, and if it's a mixture of sandbox plus storytelling, just chef's kiss. For me personally, it's just like cherry on top. If I can experience a story within a massive sandbox world, so really good to hear that. So coming back to ships, let's talk about the flight model, because the flight model is very smooth. Just personally, like I said, a big Star Trek fan, I love the gentle grace that the ships move with. It's very sort of smooth and gentle. There's no like jiggerish sudden movements. It's quite different to most of the spaceship games, I think, where quite often you'll see even the biggest ships are quite dynamic to fly, and there's like sharp turns and flying back and forth and 180s and all that kind of stuff. Was that a deliberate design choice? Do you have to, and if yes, do you have plans to have some ships that feel more dynamic when they fly?
Yeah, so it's going to be related to mass. We right now the flight model is just like a work in progress. It's just something we put in just to have something. When we actually work on the sublight engines, which is going to be in the next few patches, we'll actually have the RCS thrusters actually applying impulse to the vessel. So if you lose an RCS thruster, then all of a sudden the ship's going to handle very differently. So they'll actually be physically pushing the ship. So once we've got to that point, the flight dynamics of any vessel will depend very much on where we put the RCS thrusters and how powerful they are versus the mass of the vessel. So they are going to turn and maneuver very much like they would in the real world based on their inertia. So the bigger the vessel, the more lumbering it's going to be in space, whereas much smaller vessels will be able to be quite nimble and quick. This is another cool thing about Babylon 5. The Star Furies in Babylon 5 are perhaps the best and most accurate space fighter craft ever devised. So that's very, very much an inspiration.
Cool, nice. Again, good to hear it's going to be all based on science and and actual physics, rather than some hocus pocus magical drive or something. Really cool. So speaking of this smoothness, I know that one of the recent tweaks to the autopilot throttle curve made flight model feel even smoother. So how do you measure that feel of smoothness when you tune something like this?
Yeah, it's very personally subjective. Definitely, we don't have a tool or anything that we use to to measure that. So yeah, it's just about trying it. You tweak some numbers, you give it a try. Does it feel right? Does it feel too nimble for a quick for a ship that size? So yeah, it's a subjective thing. And when we come to actually building the flight model properly, we'll do a lot of play testing on that, and we'll get a lot of feedback from the community, and it will evolve over time, based on that play testing.
Cool. So I guess if anybody's a fan, they can get onto your Discord, I guess, and then provide feedback, obviously, through there. Is there a way to provide feedback in the game? I think there is a little thing you can...
Yeah, if you hit F1, you can submit a bug ticket, but you can also just use that for feedback.
Sure.
If something's not quite feeling right, then just hit F1 and send us a message.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the other features now. The bridge NPCs boarded the Magellan in June. Personally, one of my favorite updates. It was a bit lonely on the ship before that, and you had to run between the stations. So it's really cool. Again, in this early version, it's really good to see these different sort of features being added to this early version. Do you have any plans to bring the crew to life more when they'll have routines, walk around? I actually saw one engineer walking around. I just bumped into her just randomly, and there was like there was a girl walking around and like doing stuff in the panels. Is there going to be more things like that? Is this actually implemented right now? Is she doing something, or is it just sort of simulated walking around and just?
Yeah, right now it's just a test of the NPC points of interest. So like she's an engineer, and there's about 5 or 6 of them down in engineering. Every wall screen has a point of interest associated with it. So the reason they're there currently is to test the ability for the NPCs to pick a point of interest, path their way to it, and then kind of pretend to do an action. So that will evolve over time, where we'll be generating task lists per department. So using engineering as the example, if maintenance needs to be performed on a particular cable or pipe or something, then that will be generated as a task, and then one of the NPCs will pick up that task and go ahead and diligently deal with that task. The entire crew will be physical, so they will have their own routines, they'll have their own assigned crew quarters, and if you want to, you'll be able to follow them around throughout their entire day. So they'll get up, they'll go to work, they'll do their shift. After their shift, they'll go and get some food, they might hang out in the bar, and then they'll go back to their crew quarters, to sleep, ready for the next shift. So we definitely want the crew on the ship to have a life and to be dynamic and to be real. So you feel like you're on a living, working vessel, and it's not just a bunch of NPCs wandering around for the sake of it. They're actually there for a reason, and they actually serve a purpose. So the NPCs are like an expendable resource. So the less of them you have, the less of them are doing the jobs that need doing, and the more the player has to pick up the slack to do those jobs. Because if you suddenly lose all your NPC engineers through injury or illness, then they're not doing the jobs anymore. So things like maintenance is no longer happening. So you as the player need to then do it. So that's kind of the idea behind them.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. I know there's a little Hoover called Roomba, or based on Roomba, if you like, that actually wanders around. And you said in the video, it's actually, again, it's the sort of a test for like NPCs to move around and do cleaning jobs and things like that. So do the carpets actually get dirty at the moment?
They do, yeah. So right now, they get dirty in 2 different ways. They get dirty, like they tick, I think, once a second. They add a bit of dirt just for testing. But when the player steps on a floor panel, they apply a bit of dirt. And the same for the NPCs. So as you're walking around, the areas that get walked on the most get the most dirty. And then the little Roomba goes around and hoovers those carpets and cleans them. So you can actually see them getting dirty and then getting cleaned within the game. And that's working now already. But that's basically a test of the ability to like smash up a wall panel and then have an NPC come and repair that wall panel. It's all the same logic ultimately at the end of the day. And we've actually already tested it. So we used to have a gun in the game back in an early test version, and you could go and you could shoot out all the lights around all the corridors, and then the NPCs would come and do like a silly dance while they fixed them.
Oh, right, cool. And they'll do it on their own merit. It's not like you have to tell them, right? They just figure it out, and they go, there's a light bulb broken, I need to fix it, and I just go and fix the light bulb.
Absolutely. And this is where the per department task lists will be important. So as a player, if you're choosing to play as an engineer, you'll be working from the same task list as the NPCs. So there'll be like 30, 40 jobs that need doing, and you as the player can just pick one of those jobs to do at the same time as the NPCs are also picking jobs to do. So you're kind of working with them alongside them on an equal footing. But yeah, they will just autonomously do it. We jokingly call it Sims in space, but unlike the Sims, you don't personally tell them what to do, unless you're a department head, and then it's a bit different. But generally speaking, the NPCs will manage themselves and just get on with their job.
Yeah, that's so effectively you could play on a modular as a single player, right? And have the entire NPC crew just walking around and doing things, and you be the captain, sitting and sipping
Yeah,
the hot Earl Grey tea or whatever.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so speaking about the workstations, the almost there, all of them. There's just a few missing. So can you tell us a little bit more about the bridge stations? Can we expect any improvements, extensions, or maybe a new station altogether? I know we mentioned before about the new station coming up soon.
Yeah, so we want to make it so the bridge is the nerve center, obviously. So you can do most things from the bridge. There will be engineering stations on the bridge, and you'll be able to do basic engineering functions from the bridge. So if you've got a player who's an engineer and doesn't want to spend their whole time down in engineering, they'll be able to do some of their job on the bridge. So things like turning the reactor up and down will be like a bridge capable function. And that will be same for most of the crew roles. So there'll be an internal security station where you can look at CCTV cameras around the ship, open and close doors, lock doors, that sort of thing. There'll be an environmental control station where you can change things like lighting, heating, that sort of stuff. We'll have tactical, defense station, comms, as I mentioned earlier, sensors we already have, helm, and the 2 command chairs. I think that's all of them on the bridge. But we will be, adding those and fleshing them out one at a time. So obviously we started with the sensors because that was kind of the most useful for exploring the galaxy. Mm-hmm. The next one will be comms, and then maybe tactical after that. I think, well, helm, we need to flesh out the helm and make that a lot more robust, which we'll do when we do the sublight engines. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think helm, tactical after that, so we can start shooting at stuff, which I know a lot of people are waiting for.
Yeah, okay, that's not really. And again, it's good to see that you're adding this variety of gameplay into the game rather than just focusing on one thing, because I think it makes the engagement with the game more interesting because you get to try new things all the time rather than sort of trying a new thing but better every time. You get to try many different things, which is again, it's great to see as well.
Well, there's one thing, and I know that this is the thing that Claire's most excited about, actually. So going back to those DLCs, those single player campaigns, you can play the story through as the captain and experience that story as the captain. But then you could replay it as, say, the chef or the doctor and experience the same story from a completely different perspective. Because those events play out very differently for the captain as they would, the doctor. Sure. So whilst the captain might be the one commanding the fight, the doctor's just there in sickbay healing people that are being damaged by by that fight. So that's where these multiple crew roles lead to a lot of diversity in gameplay.
Yeah, wow, that again sounds really good. Cannot wait. So when it comes to game features in general, which one turned out far harder than you expected, and which one maybe fell into place like surprisingly easily, just like that?
The hardest one by far, and it's still giving us problems today, is the chairs. You'd think it would be really simple just to have a character sit in a chair.
Yeah.
But there's so much complexity involved in that, especially when those chairs are also connected to systems like the helm. Like even now we have a bug where you'll get out the chair, but your hair will stay there. So you walk off and your hair is just hovering in space. There are so many stupid bugs connected to the chairs. They've been a constant thorn in my side. I hate them.
That's really surprising to hear about the chairs. I would, of all of the answers you could give to this, I don't think I would ever expect chairs to be that.
Yeah. I've built an entire galaxy, and yet chairs are the thing that I'm struggling with. Yeah.
Anything easy?
And the opposite to that, the NPCs, I did it in 2 days. Wow. So I spent months and months and months fixing chairs, and yet the NPC crew took 2 days. It's crazy.
Wow, I think that shows you how surprising game development can be as well. You have certain expectations. Oh, because when people talk and chat about different games in the forums and Discords, in Reddit or whatever. There's so many armchair developers. They go, oh, they should just do this. They could just do it in just like 3 lines of code at most. And you think, like, I know nothing about game development. I know little bits and bobs, but I'm not and even intermediate at any, I'm not even a beginner. So I never get involved in that kind of, because I realize, at least I have the realization that sometimes it's not just 2 lines of code. It's actually loads of testing and loads of different quirks.
Sure.
So I think your answers here really clearly show how armchair developers on the forum should just chill out, and just take a step back and maybe think that maybe introducing chairs in the cockpit, it's not as easy as it sounds, because...
Yeah, I can give you a funny example, actually. So when you're wandering around the ship as the player, it's turning lights off on the decks that you're not on to save on performance. So that's one of our optimizations. And when you sit in a chair, you're kind of inheriting another character essentially. But then that chair suddenly doesn't know what deck it's on. So when you sit in the chair, all the lights on the ship go off. So you think, how are those things even related? But it's just little things like that, because the optimization system expects you to be a character and not a chair. So it's just another example. It's just tiny little things can break the entire ship.
That shows it really well, I guess. I know we can race in the chairs. I think some of the chairs you can just like move sitting in the chair. The ones for the mess hall, I think you can just sort of roll with the chair. Is that intentional as well, or was it like?
No, that was a 2 a.m. decision, that one. I was just kind of sat there late at night. Claire was in bed, and I was like, oh, I can make the chairs move. Wouldn't it be funny if we could sit in an office chair and wheel it around? So I was like half asleep, like manic 2 a.m. mode, and just, we ended up with movable chairs. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I think it introduces, because again, see, our community is quite creative when it comes to like in-game events, and the more sandbox, the better, because we just come up with the most crazy ideas. To give you an example, in Elite Dangerous, we made space bowling. So we put some really small ships, like you would put the pins in the little triangle shape. We put them in flat assist off, and then we had the players in the biggest ships just ram them as a bowling ball, and whoever blow up the most won, basically. So I can already see like racing in the chairs, for some unique prize or whatever across the Magellan deck. Really cool stuff like that. Yeah. Also, the panel, when you can input the YouTube video, so cool. So the last time I was on this game, I put the Star Trek Next Generation intro in there, and I had it played on the loop, and it was so, just the feeling of being in this Magellan class ship, looking outside the window, and having the Star Trek tune playing in the background. It was just so epic and so, so cool. I can already see like the meeting in the mess hall with the players and just like playing some video or something. Really cool stuff. Little things like that, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And for role players, they can pre-record videos. So they could pre-record like an admiral giving some speech and have that play on the thing for them. So we're going to try and implement as many tools and resources for role players as we can. Yeah,
that's really cool. We actually do that quite often. We have, but not video, but we have like a little SoundCloud channel. When I actually, because I'm the leader of the group, so sometimes we have like a war with other faction. I would record like a pep talk for the fighters to go out there and fight, and put like some Star Warsy effects in the background, so it sounds like it's in a war. But this video, actually, that's a great idea to have like some admiral giving a pep talk. Oh, there's the war, go out there and fight. Really cool. So there's a question in the chat as well about VR. I can actually see a VR headset behind you there. Are you planning to implement VR in the game?
Yes, I started working on it yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So
fresh from the press.
Our plan was always to put out a VR test build after we've done build 225. So now 225's out the door. A VR test build is the very, very next thing we're doing. And we'll be doing that before we work on 226. So we were keen to make sure that we had that implemented and working. And the game has been built for VR from day one, which is why you'll notice there are no menus in the game. Everything's handled via physical controls within the game world.
I love that as well, by the way. Really cool.
Yeah, and we made the conscious decision to never ever ever have a pop-up menu unless we can absolutely avoid it. So yeah, so implementing VR is going to be easy because the panels are already there and already touchable. So yeah, that should be quite good.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you. I'm a big fan of VR as well. So being able to, and one of my favorite moments in Elite Dangerous is actually because you obviously cannot stand out of your chair within the cockpit in Elite Dangerous, but you can in VR sort of if you have the relevant headset. And one of my favorite moments is when I closed up on Jupiter, parked alongside the rings, and actually stood up like from my chair physically in my room and walked out. Yeah. To the window in my ship and just stood there, and I felt like in Star Trek, honestly, like like Captain Picard staring at some old alien planet. It was so epic just being able to do that. So hearing this is going to be in Starship Simulator makes me so happy again. Really cool.
Yeah, I did exactly the same thing in my Asp Explorer. I used to get up and walk around and kind of actually look out the window at stuff. And I had some of these really, really cool kind of weird moments where I'd fall asleep in my chair with the VR headset on, and I'd wake up and be half asleep, but the headset's still on. So I'd look out the window, and just for that brief, like beautiful moment, I'm actually there in the Elite Dangerous world, looking out the window, and then my brain catches up and like, oh no, you're in VR.
It's reality. Wow. Yeah. That must be. I need to try it one day, maybe. Just make myself fall asleep in VR.
But it must be really cool.
Yeah. So going back to the questions, let's talk about accessibility, because it's been a focus of yours lately as well. So how do you actually gather accessibility feedback around different accessibilities, and different disabilities, rather? And is there anything next on this front you want to implement?
It's again, it's all about community feedback. So the community will let us know what they're struggling with or what they need. Like one of them was the text was too small on the menus for people that are hard of seeing. So we gave the control for the camera zoom, so you can zoom in as much or as little as you want just by changing that in the accessibility options, which kind of helps people that struggle to see. And we have a similar thing with some of the text. So one of the things we'll do next is we'll have the text color and background color be customizable under the accessibility options for things like dialogue boxes. So people can change that to make it easier to read and that sort of thing. Sure. But yeah, if anyone has any problems with anything in terms of accessibility, just let us know and we'll see what we can do to help.
Sure, nice one. So again, hit that F1 button and provide feedback through there, or just go to Discord and and talk over there. Beautiful, thank you for that. Actually, one of the questions came to my mind when I was watching your video, your latest video. I saw you have like a camera outside of the ship. Can you actually do that in the game as a player? Can you put your camera on the external view?
You can. It's not very well documented, but normally when you press C to cycle through the camera, if you do that whilst sat at the helm, then it adds an additional camera mode for the external view. So just press C when you sat at the helm and it will cycle through to the external camera.
I know what I'm going to be trying next when I launch the game in a few minutes. Yeah. Love looking at the external. And follow-up question then. Any plans for photo mode?
Yeah, so we have drone cameras already. So in the room immediately on your left as you walk out the bridge, there are some little...
There's like a bunch of drones.
Things. Yeah, so you can fly around with the camera drones. And we're using those to give people the ability to record videos and make machinima and that kind of thing. Yeah, so I guess photo mode would be those. But we also want to have the external camera available anywhere on the ship. So rather than just having it locked down to when you sat in the helm chair, just make that available, just generally for people. Sure. Yeah. There are times when I'll be down and I want to take a screenshot, but then I have to trudge all the way up to the bridge. So
yeah. And these space games, they can be so beautiful, and they're sometimes called screenshot generators because you can just space is so photogenic. If you find some nice nice planet with the backdrop of stars, or the star of the system in the background or something, or a big massive asteroid ring, it can be so beautiful. So I'm really glad to hear, we'll be able to actually do that just on the spot as well. Yeah, that's really cool to hear. Sorry, that was like a bonus question. Nearing back to the end of the interview, slowly but steady now. The game is supposed to go to early access at the end of this year. So let's say, it works out, the game is early access now, and it's 1 year after the early access launch. For you personally, what would be the success? What would success look like to you? I don't know, about player numbers, Steam rating, awards, or maybe something else?
It's a difficult question, isn't it? Yeah, I think having the reviews be like overwhelmingly positive, or at least mostly positive on Steam, would be nice. I think, if we just got like review bombed, that would be awful. So yeah, having players actually enjoy the game and actually play the game. Like, when we look at our stats and we see how many players are in game, over the past few days, mostly thanks to the video, we've had like between 40 and 60 players in the game at any one time, and that's great. It's lovely to see people actually being on there and playing it. Opening up the multiplayer menu and just seeing a whole bunch of games running. I think for us, that's the mark of success, actually having people playing the game.
Sure.
But yeah, so hopefully that would be the case.
Yeah, nice. I think you may see more after this interview, hopefully. And what I can tell you from my side, now that the free demo is up to the latest version, I'll be definitely having some sessions with my crew, the Winged Hussars, because there's so many fans of Star Trek and Babylon 5 and all of those other franchises, and it's just again being able to meet up on the ship with so many people and just get into the roles on the bridge, walk around. Even if we can have some, passengers just enjoying in the lounge, playing the piano or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully the numbers will go up very, very soon. Okay. So lastly, we talk about science a lot. Let's talk about magic a little bit. If you could have a magic wand and just wave it and have one tricky, apart from the chairs, tricky feature implemented tomorrow, which one would you pick up and why?
Planetary landings, because I'm really, really excited about working on planetary surfaces. One of the things that I love the most about exploring space is just walking around on planets and getting to see them at ground level. So we have so many different types of environments we want to build. Like, I want to be walking around on an icy planet with big shards of ice sticking out the ground and these big icy canyons and overhangs and that sort of thing. Or the complete opposite of that, I want to be walking around on a lava world with running lava flows down hills and things. I'm so excited about really unleashing everything Unreal Engine can do on ground level. And we know from seeing what other people have done with Unreal. Unreal is incredible at outdoor environments. So being able to do that for random planets, I think, is extremely exciting. So if I could just click my fingers and have that done already, that would be it.
Sounds amazing. It's in watching the latest the demos of Unreal 5. It's actually Unreal 5 that they're making the scene. Yeah, cool. So I don't know if you must have seen the Witcher 4 cooperation and all the stuff they are working on new techs within Unreal Engine that will hopefully be available to to developers like you as well to then use within your game. That sounds really exciting. Definitely. Really good answer, I think. Really good answer to this question. Personally, love landing plans as well. Walking up close. The closer I can look at something, the more details I can see, the better. But I think there is already some sort of, obviously you cannot land on the planets, but there are some surfaces modeled from the orbit. You can see already there's like textures and canyons and things like that in the game, right? At the moment.
Yeah. So we're generating very basic height maps for the terrain, and we're using Nanite's new tessellation feature in Unreal for basically driving 3D surfaces from that height map. So they're not super detailed. I mean, if you were to get up close to them, you can tell that they're not super detailed. But from an orbital perspective, at least you can see 3D terrain now. we won't have real-time planetary landings from the main ship, so you'll have to take a shuttle down. But yeah, so the way it's going to work, and the reason why we can throw everything that Unreal Engine can do at it, is because our surface environments will be separate from the space environment, and taking the shuttle down is going to be the transition between the two. But because of that, it means we can just go to town on planetary surfaces without having to worry about performance from space.
Sure, yeah. One thing actually, because it's sort of related. One thing I really like as well, you can project a scene on the windows, like in the mess hall, and you can do like an autumn forest or winter wonderland, and or different like ocean or mountains. That sort of, it gives you the idea of what it would look like, if the ship was actually landed on the planet, in these different environments. And it's so cool to just imagine, what if, we were on the lava planet or this or that planet. They're really cool stuff. There's one more question I wanted to ask Dan, because I know that you've expanded the studio a little bit, and I've only recently noticed that on your website, or even on your Discord, that you have a hiring section on there. So are you looking for any new people at the moment?
We are, yeah. We're looking for an Unreal generalist, basically to work alongside me doing pretty much everything within Unreal. There are so many different tools and systems we need. We need someone who's just a generalist within the engine with a lot of Unreal experience. We're looking also for a character specialist. Our character system at the moment is not great. We're using a very old version of something called ALS from Unreal. Anyone who's worked with Unreal will probably know what ALS is. It's just an old character system. And we're desperately wanting to replace that with something a lot more robust that can handle gravity in any direction. So, you could turn gravity off on the ship and float around, or even have gravity be upside down. We want to really develop that system. So a character specialist for that is desperately needed. And also a technical artist, because we want to really push what we're doing with volumetrics in the galaxy. So we've got volumetric black hole accretion disks that you can fly through and look really pretty, but we want volumetric everything. So planetary rings, more advanced nebulas, protoplanetary disks for new stars. We just want to throw volumetrics at absolutely everything. So so we need at least those 3 people at the moment.
Cool, yeah. So Chad, if there's anybody that that can fulfill these roles and are looking for a new job or new challenge or new adventure, contact, get in touch. Is it through Discord or website or just any means, email?
Yeah, Discord's fine. It's more useful to speak to Claire than me. I'm usually too busy, and I get like a bazillion messages. I never see them. So yeah, message Claire and she'll take it from there.
Cool, nice one. Thank you. I think that's all of the questions I've had for you, Dan. Thank you so much for being here. I tried to contact you last year, but now I know it should be Claire I should have been contacting, because I dropped a message to you personally, and I was like, oh, no response. He must be too busy. So I wanted to talk to you about last year already, but I'm glad we made a year's delay because the game is more developed now. There's more features, and you've just released that tech demo 3 as well, which is available to anybody to try and play. So I'm sort of glad it worked out this way. I think it's better that it happened this way. Thank you very much for being here. Really cool project. Absolutely love it. I backed it. The very first time I saw it on Kickstarter. All the best to you. Good luck with the development. Hopefully we'll see it developed, and I'm so hoping to be able to play the proper early access end of this year, and then on and beyond to the stars, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just keep an eye on everything, because as I say, twice weekly live streams. We're always posting on social media, so we're not hiding the development. Come and see what we're doing. Sure.
Again, I just posted your YouTube channel link in the chat as well, so people can go and have a look. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much, then. Have a nice rest of the day, and hopefully speak to you maybe soon, maybe next year. We'll chat again about the progress.
Absolutely.
Cool. Beautiful. Keep in touch then, and have a good one. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.